Well, good afternoon. This is week one's lecture, which encompasses chapters one and two. 1492 marked the beginning point for Spain and Portugal's dive into the exploration of the colonies. They would discover the West Indies, or what would be known as America. Now, the West Indies were home to 15 or more distinctive cultural centers, including the Nahua, the Aztecs, the Incas. The Nahuas were in Central America. The Incas were in South America, and of course, the Aztecs encompass what is modern day Mexico. It's important to examine the issue of slavery early on um, because it became very pervasive, and it would allow Latin America to grow to the way that it is today. And of course, leading to the development of what is known as the mestizo population as well as the mulatto population. There are three reasons for slavery being so important. Number one was the Atlantic slave trade extracted a volume of slaves that never previously was witnessed in Africa. Secondly, the distance that the trade carried its victims also necessarily altered the meaning of slavery. It tore families apart, ethnicities, and even politics apart. By forcefully removing men and women from the native regions, cultures, language, and religions, thus relocating them to the distinct Americas. Se- Another thing was that the slave trade worsened the status of slaves altogether relative to African customs, reducing legal protections and increasing owners' power over them. The trip to the Americas were motivated by religious beliefs, the lure of potential financial and gain and political ambitions. Now, the Portuguese began exploring, first trying to find the best route east to the Indies. Uh, and so they actively invested in that. Of course, going around the Cape of Good Hope, which would allow them to be able to go to India. Spain didn't join into the exploration until King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella united Spain under one royalty and decided to invest. And they gave a small sum to Christopher Columbus, which was an Italian. Um, so Columbus in 1492 arrived in October of that year, and he discovered what is uh, known today as Santo Domingo slash Haiti, as well as Puerto Rico. This effort by both Spain and Portugal to expand their empires led to a conflict. And then arbitration by the Pope in 1494, known as the Treaty of Tordesillas, which demarcated the location of colonies. Portugal had the right to Africa and the route to India around the Cape of Good Hope, and they also claimed Brazil, while Spain got everything else, the Caribbean, Central America, Mexico, and South America. Due to Columbus's initial success, he was given the funds for a second voyage. So in May of 1493, and he would be gone for 3 years, he was endorsed for a second voyage with the dual purposes of converting the native population to Christianity and establishing profitable royal commercial sites that excluded private traders. Overall, the Spanish were conquerors, and the local population was vanquished. Armed force and physical abuse displaced the initial cordiality that they had expressed. Due to the success of the second voyage, Columbus then was given funds and ships for a third voyage, leaving in 1498 and staying and coming back in 1500. They abandoned the idea of a trading post and they implemented the model of a settlement employed during the Reconquista. Um, he was to create autonomous free towns, complete with common and private lands, women and families, elected councils, and free and open marketplaces. While Columbus explored the Caribbean and the north coast of South America, Portugal's Pedro Alvarez Cabral discovered Brazil by on accident when a ship went westward in trying to go to the Indies, and he then discovered Salvador de Bahia. The new colonists from Spain and Portugal were ordered to Christianize and to treat the native tribes well, but the indigenous were exploited for labor and tribute, known as the encomienda. And over time, many of the indigenous were killed off or they died as a result of lack of immunity to disease. For example, one third of the native population of Puerto Rico and San Domingue were decimated in 5 years after Columbus had landed. With the decrease in the labor force, the Spanish crown authorized in 1519 the importation of slaves directly from Africa. The Spanish also obtained the requirement, which provided the legal justification for exploitation and served as a protocol for declaring war. Now, when Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor, took over in the mid 1500s, he put an end to new encomiendas, remember, because of both the high native mortality associated with them and an unwillingness to allow in the Indies the creation of a powerful nobility similar to the one in Castilla. This nobility eventually would play a role in declaring itself independent later on in the 19th century. Encomiendas accompany Spanish conquest and settlement throughout the Indies, quickly entrenching the exploitation of natives that became a hallmark of Spanish rule. I know this is a very short lecture, but in essence, that's really what you need to know. Now, what is important to note also is that both the Spanish and the Portuguese believed that the native tribes were inferior since their religion was non-Christian. And so this idea of forced evangelization, even if it meant killing the individuals, it's better that their souls are saved and they die than their souls damned and they live. The thing is that actually the negative treatment by both the Spanish and the Portuguese was one of the reasons why the indigenous decreased in size. Another thing is that a friar Jesuit, Bartolome de las Casas, showed how these natives were treated as children, as animals, and basically he recognized, due to his Christian faith, the fact that what the Spanish and Portuguese were doing was completely wrong. So, thank you and have a good day. Take care.